Yes, indeed. It's Ask the Therapist Thursday. I'm going to give it a few minutes and see if anyone joins me live. We will see. Just shuffling some cards at the moment. Chamomile. All right. Let's get into this episode. Welcome to Ask the Therapist Thursdays. I am Jassiny Jenkins, a licensed independent social worker, an autism spectrum clinical I forgot. I forgot what the letters stand for. Yeah, so I'm certified to work with people who are on the spectrum. I'll put it in the chat with the actual letters. So it's like ASD. I don't know. As I don't like to put the D in there because I don't like disorders, and now like my brain, the camera's on, it's live. I don't even know what my qualifications are, but they do exist. I promise. They can be found online. Um, let me go ahead and turn this down a little bit. Let's see. Pause. There we go. All right. So today our question is about neurodivergence and managing hygiene. Let me pull up the question. So it reads, I am a self-diagnosed AuDHDer, and I find it hard to maintain personal hygiene, especially when taking a shower and brushing my teeth. Is there anything I can do to make things a bit better, or just a little bit better, is what it says verbatim. Um, so I love this question, and I love working with people in my practice on just kind of like life hacks, shortcuts, like um, atypical organizational styles that also help with hygiene. Um, so let's get into it. I want to preference this with a few things. First and foremost, that like in our culture, hygiene is often tied to morality, morality or like self worth, self value, things like that. I'm going to encourage us to maybe release that quite a bit, or to the extent that you feel comfortable. Because when we hold on to that morality piece, when we have struggles around hygiene that are due to executive functioning or mental health or whatever, then a lot of times we start to have meta emotions. So, like emotions about emotions, and like start to feel down on ourselves that we're not able to do X, Y, and Z, or that we're not living up to like the status quo, and typically we find that meta emotions just, that aren't super helpful. Like if you're already struggling, like why add another heaping tablespoon of struggle on top? So it's kind of like what they say, if you're in a hole, the first step to get out of it is to stop digging sort of thing. So um, Casey Davis, I'll put the link in the show notes. She has a wonderful book all about this. It's called How to keep house while drowning. And it talks all about like hygiene, whether it's personal in the body or like home and organization, and a lot of like the social zeitgeist that goes along with that, and how we can be more self-compassionate. So I highly recommend that read. It's super short. The audio version I think is like 2 hours, maybe like a little over 2 hours. So definitely check that out if this is an area where you may need some more support. Um, the other thing I want to acknowledge is intersectionality. And so, while most people here are likely neurodivergent, and have other identities as well, um, you're going to meet me at the intersection of my blackness, and also being, I'm a cisgendered female. I was raised as a female. So you're also meeting me at that intersection as well. And so, what I will say is that my personal standards for hygiene might be different than someone else's personal standards for hygiene. In the Black community, you come in from outside, and the first thing you hear is like, you need to go wash the outside off of you. You smell like outside. Don't get in the bed with your street clothes on. Don't have your shoes walking around in my house, things like that. So some of those are like baseline standards in some Black households. And I think that that's often common with culture. I know people of other cultures who like bathing and showering or something they might do like once a week or every couple of days or things like that. And again, I'm not going to apply any moral judgment on it, but just know that like that standard may fluctuate across cultures. I remember when I was a little kid and like I wasn't allowed to like sit and go get breakfast until I washed my face and brushed my teeth. Like it was considered disrespectful to come to the table with a crusty face and stinky breath. All right. Um, But hygiene, however, is something that neurodivergent folks typically struggle with to some extent. Again, that extent's going to really depend on what their baseline standard is and what their executive functioning um, deficits are. And so, in my own life, just kind of starting out from when I was young, like I didn't really enjoy. I love taking baths, and to this day, I love taking baths, but that wasn't something we really did at my house very often. When I was little, we kinda did, but it was something I usually did when I went to my grandpa's house. But, when I was around, like, 6, 7, I started to, like, bathe myself, and showers were the way to go, or, like, hobo baths in the sink were also, like, acceptable, and, like, I just really did not enjoy this time. So, what I did to get through it, because it was a requirement in my home, was I made it into a game. So for better or worse, like, if you ever watched The Big Comfy Couch with Lynette and Molly, they do like the 10-second tidy. So like I would try to do the 10-second tidy for my body, and like each day I would try to like beat it. So I'm just like I don't know how effective that was, but it worked. I got away with it. No one complained. I was happy. I had no other complaints. So it just wasn't something that I love to do. And there's a few different reasons why people may struggle with hygiene when they have neurodivergent conditions. And so, one of them is just like energy levels, so we have difficulties with fatigue. A lot of times we may have like chronic fatigue. Um, in the same kind of boat, chronic pain, that might make it difficult for us to stand in the shower or, stand long enough to clean the bathtub or whatever it is. Um, so that can be a barrier often to um, just getting ready and getting in the shower, um, or in the bathtub or whatever it is that you do. So that can be one of the challenges. Another big challenge is like a sensory challenge. So for me, there may be times where I just literally don't feel like being wet. Like, the idea of being wet just it grosses me out. I don't want it. I don't wanna do it. Um, and sometimes this can happen, like, after I come back from the dance studio, or, so I have been exercising, or, it just might be for a couple of days, I just don't feel like getting wet. Um, and that can be a major barrier. In the same sense of, like, with sensory, like, it's really hard to get, like, the temperature of the water often, like, just right. Think Goldilocks, because that's what it is, at least for me, many of the times. Like, it's like it'll be too cold, and I'll turn it up just slightly, and then all of a sudden, it's, like, too hot, and I can't get it just to where I want it, and that can be frustrating as well. I remember I was reading a book, What to Say Next by, Sarah and her husband. I wanna say his name's Larry, but I might be making that up. Their last name is Nannery, though. And their son, is also on the spectrum along with Sarah, the author, one of the authors. And, they had to teach him, like, good enough. What's good enough? Like, things won't be perfect because he had that same sort of issue of, like, couldn't get the temperature to the Goldilocks standard, and that would cause frustration in the showering process. Um, so sensory stuff, fatigue, again, chronic pain. So you think about you got to lift up your arms and things like that, which can be difficult. For those of us with lots of hair, just kind of detangling it and getting through it can be difficult. And there's the issue of like when you're out of the shower, your hair is still wet. So like, how is that for you sensory wise? Do you have to go outside and like don't like the wind on your head? Like, do you not like the wet feeling, kind of like on your neck or whatever? Um, Lots of little things that I think many people don't necessarily consider when it comes to hygiene. Um, so, my own hygienic practices as of today, I typically shower most days. Oftentimes, I'll shower once a day, sometimes twice a day if I'm gotten really into something. But there will be those times where I'd shower like every other day or something of that nature, or maybe I'll put like a hobo bath in between, especially if I'm in a period of, I won't call it shutdown, but a recharge period. So, like for instance, over the weekend, I had went out quite a bit. I visited some friends, did some things, ran some errands, got a lot done. And so Sunday was the last day that I went outside. And then I did not leave the house and go back outside for 2 days. So it wasn't until Tuesday, and I couldn't. Like, there were things I needed to do and I wanted to do, but, like, the idea of, like, going out into the world and, like, leaving my home, it was overwhelming, and it just didn't feel aligned. Um, and so, when I'm in those sorts of periods, sometimes I might just stay in the house and not really shower much, if at all, especially if I'm not really feeling dirty or icky. Um, some workarounds though, when I am feeling a little bit icky and I don't feel like showering, what I'll usually do is I will put on like a long sleeve shirt and some sweatpants or something like that. Although that is kind of like my work from home uniform. um, but I will do it intentionally, like if I don't feel like showering, but I need to lie down and I need to get in bed and I don't want to like ruin the sheets. Like I just like in my mind, I don't want like the dirt of my skin directly in contact with my sheets. Um, so that's just me on that note. So this particular question was asking about especially showering and brushing teeth. Um, so what I will say, let's maybe reverse engineer it. Let's say showering isn't so much an issue and you already shower. What's been really helpful for me with teeth brushing is keeping two sets of toothbrushes. So I have one toothbrush at the sink and I have one toothbrush in the shower. So that way, if it's there just a day I don't shower, I can just brush my teeth at the sink or whatever. If I am in the shower, then I can see my toothbrush right there, and it's a reminder for me to brush my teeth. And that has been super, super helpful because over the years, and I think especially during the pandemic, is when I really divested from some of the routines that I grew up on. So, that kind of like washing your face, brushing your teeth before you go eat. I mean, I wasn't as rigid with it in like adulthood, but I think it was really the pandemic where I really started to let some of that stuff go. 'Cause I didn't have to go anywhere, I didn't have anything, to necessarily be presentable for. Um, and so then that just kind of, like, took a back seat, and, I would often forget if whether or not I brushed my teeth that day, like, what happened. So what I did was, yeah, I started keeping them in 2 places. I have 2 things of toothpaste that are out, and then that way, if I'm already in the shower, it's right there. I'm like, "Okay, cool, brush my teeth." If I am out of the shower and I'm just at the sink, brushing my hair or whatever, I see the toothbrush, I'm like, "Alright, cool, I can brush my teeth." Um, so that has been super helpful, for me. I know that for some people too, what can be helpful just along with toothbrushing points is just kind of like keeping gum on them or like Listerine packs. Again, this isn't going to clean your teeth per se, but it can help if you're worried about offending others with your breath. That could definitely be a suggestion, or mints. Because I know, like, for some people, chewing gum will trigger like TMJ, which is very common in neurodivergent populations. Um, so that's something to think about. And then they also have like the disposable toothbrushes that have the little toothpaste ball in the middle. I don't love it sensory wise. Like I feel like the toothpaste ball is too hard. But if it floats your boat, rock it out. That way you can keep them on your person, keep them in your bag, and you can brush your teeth whenever you feel like you need to. Similarly, flossing is pretty much the same. I, however, am like a chronic flosser. Like I'm not one of those people like, oh, I forgot to floss. Like I'm flossing all the time actually. So just the way my teeth are spread out, like I can't tolerate um food and stuff sticking in there or staying in there. It just drives me nuts. So like I keep a thing of like floss picks in my car and like the middle console. I keep floss by the sink. I keep floss by my bed. I keep floss in the living room. I keep it all over the place so that I can access it easily when I need to do the flossing. All right. So if showering is a difficult thing, um, I would say in general, habit stack, which I'm going to come back to that. But before habit stack, I would say maybe trying to pair that shower with something that is um, enjoyable. So, like, if there is a podcast you really want to listen to, or an album that you really want to listen to, maybe you do that while you shower. That can be helpful to pair it with something in that regard. Um, if some of the showering issues are around like standing and that sort of thing, you can always shower and sit in the tub while the water falls on you, or you can actually get a shower chair if you would like, so that you don't have to stand as long. Um, those are some options. I'm trying to think. I wanted to bring up another point, I feel like, around showering, but it's escaping me at the moment. Hmm. Okay, so yeah, just kind of like pairing it with things you like. Um, One thing for me, like I remember the other day, I was kind of just like in a mood, not super distressed or anything, but just kind of meh. And I really didn't feel like doing much of anything. My motivation was pretty low, but I knew there were other things I wanted to do. Like I wanted to twist my hair because I knew I was going to go out the past weekend. So I wanted it to like be in a style. I knew I needed to work out because I hadn't in a few days. And then also I needed to shower before I would twist my hair because I needed to wash my hair. It was like in a little ratchet. So there was these things I needed to do, and I really couldn't motivate myself to get into the shower. So I was able to motivate myself to go to the gym. I don't necessarily know how, but I talked myself into it. Actually, I do know how. Like part of it was just kind of really reaching out to community for accountability. So like, I texted my sister and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm trying to like make myself go to the gym," and she's so hilarious. She was like, "Why would you do that?" And I was just like, "Because like it helps to improve my mood, and also like I need to get in the shower, and if I go to the gym, then I'll want to shower afterwards." And so then she encouraged me and she was like, "Okay, cool, cool, cool." And then she's like, "Well, did you go?" So that was very encouraging. Or for instance, well, I still have a friend. My friend's still the same, but we used to do an accountability like text thread. And so like, I think it was around meditation typically. Sometimes we would change it, but we would check in to see if we've like meditated that day. And we did that pretty consistently for quite some time. So maybe having a hygiene accountability buddy might be helpful as well. Um, so those are a few things to think about when it comes to like pairing things that need to be done together or things that you want to do with that task that you don't want to do. Um, so the idea of habit stacking, though, however, is to start a habit, attach it to a pre-existing habit. So, like for instance, if every morning you get up and you take your meds, then maybe like keep your meds at the bathroom sink. That's actually what I do. I keep them in multiple places, but the main one is in the bathroom sink. That's my main stash. um, so like You can keep them at the bathroom sink and then, like, before or after taking your meds, brush your teeth. So that way those things are now linked together. Or, like, if you feed the cat every morning, then maybe you have a sticky note to, like, brush your teeth right by the cat food or something like that to remind you to go do that. Um, and the same way, if you have some sort of exercise routine, maybe you shower, or if you know that, like, showering, helps you sleep well at night, then maybe you add it to a nighttime routine where you hop in the shower or, you do your hobo bath 1, 2. That might not be politically correct. I should maybe I should maybe, reflect on that. I don't know if we should call them hobo baths, but, anyway, you can do your little body 1, 2 in the sink and not actually put your whole body in the shower or in the bathtub. That is also an option, but maybe pairing it with something you do at night. So maybe that's nighttime meds, maybe that's reading your kid a nighttime story or something like that, or, doing getting your kids ready for bed. Maybe you pair it in some sort of habit that you already have. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up right about here. What I would add to that is, sometimes, like I said, you just don't want to shower, you don't have the energy, or you just don't have the sensory capacity or spoons to do that thing. So remembering that there are like products that you can use that don't require rinsing. So like you can order like non-rinse soaps. Um, I don't know the science behind them, exactly how they work, but they are definitely a thing. You can find them on the major I'm not gonna even get into it. You can find it online. Anyway, on that place that does 2-day shipping, they definitely have them there. Though I'd encourage you to look elsewhere if possible. I understand though that that is not always accessible to everyone. Um, so and along with that, you can use, like, body wipes, so, baby wipes or, the brand Lumi, who's, like, a natural deodorant brand, like, they have wipes. Summer Eve has body wipes. So that way, at least you could kind of, pits, tits, naughty bits, wipe things off, keep odors from trapping, and it just might be easier because you can also kinda do this sitting on a chair, on the toilet, wipe your feet off or whatever you need to do. Um, so yeah, those are some of my tips for improving hygiene and just managing that while you are also living with a neurodivergent brain. So just remember that regardless of your current hygiene practices, you are still a human that is deserving and that possesses inherent worth and dignity. You deserve respect, you deserve kindness, and love. All right, y'all. Have a good day. I'll see you next week. Peace.